SPU drones struck 5 Russian fighter jets at the Saki airfield in temporarily occupied Crimea. At the same time, 1 aircraft was completely destroyed. The security service clarified that the Saki airfield is a key Russian airbase for operations in the Black Sea.
As a result of the strike, a Su-30SM aircraft was completely destroyed, and another was damaged. 3 Su-24 aircraft were also hit. The enemy suffered significant losses. A single Su-30SM aircraft alone can cost on average between $35 and $50 million. As a result of the special operation by the SBU's Alpha Special Operations Center, an aviation munitions depot at the airfield was also hit. The successful SBU operation in Saki is another step toward weakening the enemy's ability to wage an aggressive war against Ukraine. From a statement by the Security Service of Ukraine on Telegram.
Ukraine's defense forces carried out a precision strike on Russian military targets in the temporarily occupied territory of Zaporizhzhia region, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. As a result, a Russian S-300 surface-to-air missile system was destroyed. Eliminating this target has significantly reduced the enemy's ability to fire on the positions of Ukraine's defense forces and the region's civilian infrastructure. Meanwhile, Russian troops attempted to break through Ukraine's state border by storming the Hoptivka checkpoint in Kharkiv region. The defense forces gave the saboteurs a decisive rebuff, reported Vyacheslav Zadorenko, head of the Durachi City Military Administration. According to him, fighters from the 58th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade eliminated more than a dozen Russian invaders, while the other assault troops fled back to Russia. Therefore, despite the Russian side's claims about allegedly capturing the checkpoint, Hoptivka remains completely under the control of Ukrainian forces.
This isn't even disinformation. It's some kind of Google style, a playbook they've probably dug up somewhere. It's just outright lies over there. From the Russian Federation side, there might be some kind of military disinformation. But to lie to the whole world about what they're doing there, about supposedly capturing some settlements.
Operators of the 427th Wareg Regiment destroyed a Russian heavy flamethrower system. Drone pilots spotted the Tsonsepyak at night after it had launched its munitions. First, the enemy equipment was attacked by an FPV drone, and then strikes from heavy Tvamper drones finished off the system. Meanwhile, on the Lyman front, the Russian army attacked the positions of Ukrainian units near Kharkivka, Mern, Zelina Dolina, and Torsky. On the Pokrovsk front, Russian invaders tried to push back the Ukrainian armed forces in the areas of Poltavka, Krasny Lyman, Zvariv, Kotline, Yudakny, and Novokrenka. And on the Novopavlivka sector, Russian army soldiers attempted to break through the Ukrainian defenses near Zeliny High, Podibn, and Malevka. Meanwhile, fighters from the Tkardia brigade repelled a motorcycle attack by Russian invaders on one of the fronts. The Russian army is using motorcycles for rapid assaults. However, Ukrainian FPV drones still turn out to be faster. As a result, another attempt to attack Ukrainian positions was stopped right in the middle of the field. The Tstrix unit of the 4th Detachment of the Ukrainian State Border Guard Service struck 8 enemy targets in the southern Slobozansky direction. Specifically, a Russian tank and a motorcycle were destroyed, a mortar crew was neutralized, and 3 shelters and 2 combat positions of the Russian army were completely demolished. Another 1,010 Russian occupiers were eliminated by Ukraine's defense forces over the past day. In total, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the enemy army has lost more than 1,058,000 soldiers, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In addition, Ukrainian defenders destroyed a tank, 8 armored combat vehicles, 28 artillery systems, as well as 85 units of automotive equipment belonging to the Russian invaders yesterday.
Kostyantyn Kryvulyan joins us. Hello, Konstantin.
Greetings.
The use of airfields, in this case the temporarily occupied Donetsk airport, is this a problem for Ukraine and for the air defense forces?
Absolutely, because right now the Russians are doing everything they can to increase their capabilities for launching Shaheds. They're also undertaking large-scale construction in Alabuga to ramp up the production of Shaheds. They're now trying to use the Donetsk airfield to restore it, not to bring back civilian flights, but to use it for launching Shahed strikes. In addition, there's information that they're trying to do the same thing with the Kerch airfield. And right now there are 6 main locations, 6 launch points for the Shahed. Now it looks like they're trying to increase that to 8. In terms of Shahed production volume, in June they reached about 90 Shaheds per day. And according to their plans, as reported by our intelligence agency, our main intelligence directorate, they intend to ramp up Shahed production to 110. This means that we're going to have significantly more trouble with aerial attacks, and the overall number of Shaheds utilized in these devastating attacks will undoubtedly increase. And our air defense systems need to be ready for this new challenge.
Interceptor drones, which are being talked about a lot right now, electronic warfare, more powerful antennas. What do you see as the solution to this situation?
Well, no, there isn't a unique tool that can solve all the issues at every altitude and at every range. It's a combination of all available means. Actually, the Shahed is the most inconvenient target for air defense. Why is that? Because if a cruise missile is flying, it's clear what brings it down, either an anti-aircraft missile system or tactical aviation. If, let's say, a ballistic missile is flying, that's also clear. If there's a Patriot, it intercepts it. If there's no Patriot, then we get a hit. But in those cases, as you understand, everything is straightforward. The algorithms are very simple. But the algorithm for dealing with the Shahed is much more complicated. They start intercepting it at the line of combat engagement or our borders. They intercept it with the same interceptor drones, which have now entered service with us, though only in small numbers so far. And the problem with interception is that, in order to aim accurately enough, even though they get these electronic points for shooting down a Shahed, like 30 points, which is a lot, still, things don't always go smoothly, because the mission itself is difficult for the operators. To get their bearings in the dark sky, find the Shahed, get close to it, and hit it, that's not the easiest task. Especially if these Shaheds start climbing to altitudes above 2,000 meters. During the day, interceptor drones work very effectively against reconnaissance drones. It's clear, you can see everything, you know where to fly and what to do. But at night, that's when the difficulties start. So the main problem here is, first of all, with the interceptor drones themselves. That is, at high altitudes, you somehow need to get them up there, either using drone carriers, or by lifting them with some kind of light aircraft or other means to those heights and launching them, because otherwise the entire battery's energy will be spent just to climb to 4,000 meters and beyond. After a Shahed is intercepted, I'm just coming back to the question of why it's difficult to shoot down Shaheds. They're met by Army TACTI, Army Aviation of the Ground Forces. These are helicopters. Previously, they were intercepting about 50% of the Shaheds. There are literally machine gun turrets set up, with a gunner strapped in by the waist, and he just shoots down these Shaheds. But when there were too many Shaheds in one place, and you can't have 2 or 3 helicopters in the same area because they'd get in each other's way while firing, it became a big problem, and a significant number of Shaheds started getting through. Next, there are anti-aircraft missile systems. Shooting down Shaheds with missiles is quite an expensive affair, because even the cheapest missile will cost over $150,000. That's an AIM-9 or even the old Soviet R-73, but it's still an expensive pleasure. A Shahed just isn't really worth that kind of expense. Then they get closer to the mobile fire teams, which have limited detection and targeting capabilities, as well as the machine guns themselves, which can shoot up to 2,000 meters. It's good if there are Jeopards. Jeopards can hit targets at 4,000 meters and even farther. Especially if there's a Skynex system, those work absolutely brilliantly in automatic mode for locking onto these targets. So if our interceptor drones can master automatic targeting modes using artificial intelligence systems, in very close coordination with air defense information systems, this could yield a really good result. But at this point, given the current stage of development of all this technology, I would actually pay special attention to light aircraft, which can intercept Shaheds long before they reach the cities, because shooting down Shaheds in urban areas is not the best idea. Although that's exactly how things are happening right now. Because these debris still fall, they still damage our infrastructure, hit homes, lead to civilian casualties, and cause losses to elements of our infrastructure. Well, in my opinion, Shaheds shouldn't be making it into the city. They should be shot down before that. This can be done by light aircraft, because even with interceptor drones, deploying them over such vast areas and training and preparing the necessary number of pilots, well, at the moment, for example, if 50 Shaheds are flying, a group of 50 Shaheds, you would need 500 interceptor drones to reliably, more or less reliably, intercept them. The Russians are trying to copy all this, but because they have such a vertical power structure, a vertical management structure, they're much slower at it. So they just try to copy our systems. That's why future battles on land and in the air will most likely be fought exclusively with these kinds of systems. And just like in a good chess match, for a long time machines couldn't beat grandmasters, but now grandmasters are losing to machines. The same thing will happen with these military operations. In January 2024, up until 2024, the Americans spent 6 months training the F-16s to fly and carry out missions. And they conducted a trial test. On the other side was also an F-16 with similar equipment, piloted by one of the well-known American aces, and the second F-16 was operated by artificial intelligence, with a pilot sitting in the back just to monitor things in case something went wrong. So, the F-16 with artificial intelligence won that fight. The ace pilot said, "I had no idea what it did at all." And the pilot who was sitting in the plane with artificial intelligence said, "It took me a few seconds to even understand what it was doing." And these AI-powered machines, if they become fully unmanned, will be able to perform maneuvers that a human simply couldn't withstand. That is, when the G-forces exceed 7 or 8 GS. There are still going to be a lot of events, discoveries, and solutions related specifically to airspace and aviation.
This is really fascinating. It's honestly a whole other huge topic for our discussion. Kostyantyn, I'm very grateful that you found the time to join us on air. Kostyantyn Kryvulyan, aviation expert, was with us live.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.